friend, first, I want to say right off the top, thank you so much for all the interviews that we have done for decades. It's always been an honor, it's always been a pleasure. And I feel like I've been part of comedy royalty whenever I've had a chance to speak to you. And what I'm enjoying so much right now is the fact that what we're going to talk about, so many other people are going to get a chance to enjoy this comedy royalty, man, because something's coming up that's really special that is celebrating you, what you've done for comedy, and how you've helped others in comedy.
It's a real honor. I call it the walking, breathing eulogy. It's April 9th. Crave TV is airing the special 30-year anniversary of the Nubian show. And there's no way I could have got every comic on there that's been a part of the 30 years, but I think we've got a good shuffle of the cards on it, and I'm quite proud and pleased.
Did you ever think this would grow to what it has become? Because I'll tell you right off the top, man, even not being in the audience, just the fact of those posters, and I still call them posters, those posters that you would put together are iconic and hilarious.
Well, that's because in the last 2 years, a gentleman out of Belleville, Jason Reese, has been putting them all together for me. Before then, it was my crude attempts of trying to put something together with the name of it printed and then little square pictures of everybody. And my man Jason with Jaybird Digital has really upped the level. In fact, most times the posters are better than the show. I hate to say it, and the shows are always great. But yeah, he always brings up a next level. So I'm not sure what we're going to do for the April 30th show. I believe it's the 30th, but might have something to do with elbows up. So we'll see. We'll see.
Did you ever think this would grow to what it has become? Because it has become so iconic and so important.
Never.
Not just comedy, but we're just talking about the human fabric of Canadians and representation.
Oh, I never, when we first started, I had no idea of the box office appeal it was going to have. That I just knew that there was a shortage of black comics, and I had planned on doing something. And then Mark Breslin said, "Would you consider doing something at my club?" And I said, "Your club, the biggest club in Canada?" I was thinking I'd be somewhere like Basement of Cuddy's, or I was thinking, and well, sure, absolutely. So we turned away about 150 people our first show, and we had everybody in the audience from Clifton Joseph and Ita Sadu and that type, to attorneys, to Clement Virgo was in the audience. And then by the next show, all the rap, because it was the first season of the Raptors, so we had Zeke and all the Raptor players there, and then it became word spread that whenever there were Black Hollywood was making a lot of films here in the day. So Tommy Davidson said, "What's there to do in Canada on a Sunday night?" And they said, "Well, there's a black show at Yuck Yucks, Yickety Yak, yeah, Yickety Yak." So they went down there, and then we had Will Smith, who didn't hit anybody, and Vivica Fox and Tommy Davidson and Jamie Foxx. Then Robert Townsend would come to the shows, and he wouldn't go on because he was a comic, but he'd just hang out in the back with the comics, and he wound up casting a couple of the comics into some of the films he used.
Wow.
So David Sutherland was in the audience, it was in the crowd. So it was more than a show. It was an event. And that's how I've always treated it. We only do it once a month, so I treat every show like it's Super Bowl Sunday.
And you do it so well. You kind of mentioned the importance of it, but I want to go back again, the importance of having something like this that Canada never really has ever had before.
No, well, like I said, my running joke was very few black comics in the country. There was myself, Ronnie Edwards, Gene Clark, Greg Morton, Evan Carter, and that may have been it. And then we adopted Russell because, well, he wasn't black, but he was brown. So I'm saying, well, bring in all the colors, and so that was it. and Orson Payne was starting then, and but there really weren't. And the thing is, there were even fewer black people in the audience.
Hmm.
I had a conversation with some comics. Well, don't black people like comedy? Yeah, we do, but going camping isn't this stuff of the hood. So, the talent pool brought it in. For the first time, we had comics talking in patois in this country. So then, of course, we have a huge West Indian influence in culture. So they came in. So, there's all kinds of bloods and bombas and all the other words that were being thrown in the air that were never heard by anybody. And you could destroy the room just by saying bun and cheese. So, it was a whole cultural thing as well.
Curious, because I never realized that. So, and now I hope I'm asking this question in the most respectful manner. How did the white audience react to this? Because everything you're saying is stuff that we've grown up with. So we know what to laugh at. We understand everything else. So now, when you're representing this kind of comedy to a white audience, how were they reacting? It were they laughing with us?
The
Were they
until the past
laughing but
couple
not understanding? Or
until the past couple of years, the audience were predominantly black, 98%,
right?
95%. And over
But
the
I'm talking
years,
about in the beginning.
yeah, in the beginning,
Yeah.
and then when Caucasians would come, they kind of are we safe? And of course, that was just cannon fodder for the comics. And don't have a brother be sitting in the front row with a blonde girlfriend. Woo! You know, you could see the brother ready to cry, and the woman just getting mad, and you know, and I'd say, well, I'm sorry, brother. What do you expect? I said, Ronnie Edwards, he learned to leave his white woman in the back of the room. And then, and they go, and me, I don't even let my white woman come. So, so that was the kind of humor that we threw. And then over the years, it's changed. The people that ran out the fastest run out we ever had of that show. We had two Caucasian girls from out west called the Dirty Show, and they were dirty. And they went up, and there was a Puerto Rican family from New York on holidays, and they said, "Well, we were in the Second City last night, and I could their teenage son ran for the door first." And I said, "Well, this ain't the Second City." And before I knew it, there's a family, about 4 or 5 of them, and they were gone. They were gone. I was like, well, I thought you Latinos would like some spice, but no. So the quickest run out we ever had were not Caucasians, but Latinos caused by Caucasians. That's what happens when you let them people in. So it was a great show, but people have learned, and sure, people sometimes the comics would even make fun, and they would stop and explain like they were doing a translation. When he says that means homosexual, so and of course they would just play with what that phrase meant for the joke. So it's been successful with everybody.
Uh, how did Crave come to you with this idea of a 3 year celebration?
I owe it all to Anton Leo with Counterfeit Productions. He came to me. He was producing the Rick Mercer comedy specials, and Antonio and Marlino Antonio Lopez was on the show, and he just started talking all about the Nubian during his B spot. And Rick Mercer's trying to introduce him, going, "Yes, Kenny's good." And they go, "Yes." And then I moved from Calgary to do Nubian, and then Nubian. So then Anton said, "Man, there sure is a lot of talk about Nubian." And then I guess he heard more and more and more. So then he came to me and said, "It's a story that needs to be told." And I said, "Well, we've been trying to tell it." So it was a hard fight. And I must say that Anton brought in the top notch people, and I think we've got something we're quite proud of.
Oh, I can't wait for it. What are we going to see?
Well, you're gonna see 10 of the finest comics available that evening.
Mhm.
Everybody from Crystal Ferrier, who she's killer, and she's been one of the writers on Roast Battle. We got her and Sabrina Douglas, and then we've got Ronnie Edwards, and there's a young comic I can't say enough good things about, Mr. Lewin, and then we at the end of the show, after 10 great comics, Russell Peters has come home.
Cannot wait for that.
So and because everything for him, he got his first TV exposure as a result of Joe Bodalai, RIP Joe was at the Nubian show and he saw Russell and put him on for comics, and then Russell got after that a Comedy Now, and then he got a second Comedy Now, and then somehow it leaked onto the internet. Boom, everybody's been trying to get on the internet and make it happen big since then, and maybe only two or three people, it was lightning in a bottle. So only a few, and he's climbed higher than anybody could ever have dreamt of anybody climbing.
Amen to that. And it's funny because I always say that, and he'll say it too. I was one of the first people when I was at 680 News to do interviews with him
Mm.
and talk to him and run his when he has shows coming up. And I still remember people going, who is this Russell Peters? Yeah, they don't say that anymore. And that's thanks to people like yourself who give him these kind of platforms. How important is it to have these kind of platforms out there for comedians in Canada?
Well, not as important as it used to be, because all the comics that I brought up and mentored are off branching off doing their own shows now. So whereas the time there's a shortage of black comics, now every time I go to put a list up, I go, this he doing the show, he's got a show on, they got a show the night before. I said, well, how can they do a show the night before the BMI show the night? I'm going to have to crack down. And I went, no, you just put it on, because it doesn't, like, there's a comic who was in from England last month, sold out show. He'd heard about the Nubian. He broke butt to make it down to see the show and wound up doing a killer spot after my headliner.
Wow.
So the word and the legend and the legacy and the reputation still is it's the OG. Yeah, there's many hamburger places, but you still go back home to the Golden Arches.
Is there going to be a segment or a celebration of your outfits? Because it does not matter. Well, it does matter how great these comedians are, but it still doesn't compare to what you wear on every show. That to
Well,
me is a staple point.
for the B side, I'm flashing kind of a navy shark skin with a yellow shirt and a matching tie, yellow on yellow. Kind of electric Ukraine flag kind of thing happening. And then for this show itself, I've got this lovely olive green pinstripe with black linen shirt. And when I bought it, I said to my son, it looks like the kind of brother that when he puts a suit on, his wife cries because he ain't doing right when he leaves the house. And he says, "It looks like you look like you drink martinis wearing this." And I go, and I spend my afternoon at the racetrack. So, it's great. I can look at it. I can look at a piece of clothing and draw up the whole scenario of the lifestyle of whoever wears that. So, but now with our little beef with Trump and the other people, it
Oh,
may be a while before I cross the border to head to Detroit or to Buffalo to get something. So I'll have to
okay.
make do.
What are you most proud of Nubian Disciples?
I'm the proudest of is that we've made it last 30 years, that it's helped me to raise and educate my three children. So because many times I said, man, you could have been in LA all this time,
Mhm.
and then I said, and done what? So just when I see the success, like John Paul, he wasn't available for this recording, but I'm very proud of Jean Paul. I'm very proud
Yeah.
of Ron Jossel. I'm very proud of
Yeah.
Tricks. I'm very proud, so I'm proud of so many comics that have done great. Trey Anthony was an early member of the outfit. She went. Her first writing gig was on After Hours. Her first
Wow.
time doing TV and writing. I'm very proud of the fact that my son said to me, "You ever hear a comic named Kevin Hart?" And I said, "Go in the garage. There's some cardboard boxes, and if you look in there, you'll see Kevin Hart autographs next to the amount of money I paid him." Because he was known as Little Kev back then. And he'd drive up from Philadelphia and cry all the way back to Philly after he exchanged his Canadian for U.S. dollars. I'll come all the way to Canada for $47.90. And so then when we had After Hours, we were able to fly him in. And I think it was his first time doing sketch. But because I had the TV show that came from the
That's
other
right.
show,
That's right.
Leslie Jones, first time she did sketch was on After Hours. So I'm proud of everybody that's been able to be showcased and profiled and mentored and used. And I'm so excited about the upcoming talent as well. You know, let's see, there's so many new kids that are coming up, and then I'm doing comedy workshops at a different book list, otherwise known as the Blackhurst Cultural Center. I
Mm.
do the comedy workshops every Monday from 6:30 till 9, and there's all kinds of great young talent that I'm seeing there or mentoring there, and then they run off to do all the different open mics, and then we come back and we show them some hard love. And don't you bring your phone on stage to read if you can't remember your lines. Why should your audience pay the attention of listening? So
Yes.
but I mean that's all hard school teaching. If there's not the grumpy old son of a gun sitting in the bleachers, boy, get that glove down. If Mudbone ain't in the bleachers yelling, then they don't know, right?
Truth. You speak the truth. Before we wrap this up, I know they're making announcements for awards every year. You think it's time for you to be on that Canada's Walk of Fame? Because I think it is.
That'd be incredible. Somebody else mentioned the Governor General Medal, and then they started to
Yeah.
talk about that, and then Robert Priest, I think, first brought the idea up to me. But there's a lot of legwork, but it's I'll be 68 in January, so whatever they're going to give me, they better give it to me soon.
You're too young, my brother. Way too young. Look, we're going to wrap this up again. I got to say, man, it has been an honor interviewing you over the
Always
decades.
a pleasure, sir. You are the top of your field, and you too are deserving of your name written on a sidewalk, not by you, and not when the cement is fresh.
Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you, and looking forward to seeing the show.
Take care. Good seeing you.